All right, I am restarting the stream on broadcast. Hopefully, the stream can hear this now. 2 minutes from now, anyway. The stream, for some reason, is dead at the moment. I don't know why. I didn't do anything to change it, but hopefully they can hear us. Those of you who are in ticket, we will continue to cast for you, of course. Thank you for supporting us and picking up that ticket with the nice Juggernaut set that it comes with. Back to what you were saying, Matt, the clockwork. It's a very nice throttle control on team fights. Just having the cogs, having the ability to reinitiate as well into towers, especially with that very long hookshot initiation, allows you to kind of sit back with your team and just rely on the clockwork to make an opening, which does have a lot of potential to shut down heavy 5-man pushes, which is why clockwork was so much more popular back when 5-man pushing was in vogue. The Witch Doctor is going to come out here. I don't know how I feel about the Witch Doctor in this, and that is one of my favorite heroes. I just don't know how I feel about him with Inside Electroid. Do you have any insight as to why that would be a good or bad pick?
I think they're continuing to double down on the 5-man push strategy we've been talking about them using. This is maybe not the best option they could have gone for. There are many other better ways of controlling the tempo, the tempo with a secondary support pickup, but I do think in the early game they can get a nice boost out of the Maledict damage here with the lineup they have, but we haven't seen their carry yet, so I think this may be more of like a planned setup for the carry pick rather than just we're picking Witch Doctor on his own merits approach.
Right, and Witch Doctor does have a lot of merits, but one of his merits is not the ability to siege down towers. So
he can certainly kill the people trying to defend the towers.
Right, and he's very good at that. He's also very good at providing sustainable siege.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the Weaver in this situation, but the Skywrath is a pretty good counter to the Weaver, so you do have to be careful. But what I was going to say is the Witch Doctor is good for pushing for one specific reason, and that reason is that he is really good at prolonging sieges. He is really good, and the stream is coming back online now. Good. It does look like everything should be good to go, but he has that big AoE heal for his entire team, which means that his team can stay out and fight at towers longer. They can slow push towers. That is a really undervalued skill in the current meta, the ability to slowly get a tower over time, and it used to be much more in the minds of teams, especially teams at like the high community level, that, yeah, if we can just stand by a tower long enough, we'll eventually get it. And I think the popularity of the Treant Protector a little while ago kind of killed that. Just sort of got rid of all the antibodies.
Action bottom is Ice smokes in with 4.
They are gonna
nothing.
Yeah,
okay,
miss.
They're just gonna turn tail and leave.
Yeah, they presumably have some wards. Yeah, Skywrath Mage is holding on to some wards, and they are going to drop one right here, which is going to provide a vision for the counter gank and just make sure that there are no strong locations.
That is camp block, I wonder.
That is the Magic Bush. Yes. This is a very old ward spot. Well, actually, it's the only spot that will block both these camps. So it used to be, once again, we're talking a year and 6 months ago, that was the exceedingly popular spot for a ward, but it's just so easy to counter ward that people stop doing it, because as soon as you see both these spots, right, not grabbing any creeps, you know exactly where that ward is, and you can counter ward it. But it is not as popular a ward spot anymore, so maybe some of these more community level teams might not even be aware of it, just because it's been so long since we've seen it very frequently. Radiant putting up a rune ward up here for the top rune, and also a little bit of rotation vision on this river area, and an additional ward going out for the rune and safety here in the mid lane. All right, why don't we go ahead and run through our players since we've yet to do so. I will start off by running through Ice. We've got 1-2-2 or 12-2 on the Nature's Prophet here in the top lane. He's having a little bit of an engagement with the Tidehunter, but nothing really to speak of. We've got Base Soul Chan Kun Senpai Sama on the Skywrath Mage. That's a whole mouthful. Down here in the bottom lane, we've got Bean, much easier to say, on the Clockwork Mage. And we do have Naplaner on the Tiny, and stacking up the jungle, it is going to be Katsu on the Isle. Why don't you go ahead and run through the Radiant for us, Matt?
Thummoo is playing the Weaver today. Thumbski is on the Brewmaster. Magwai is on the Witch Doctor. Mushimu playing the Shadow Shaman. And John Zilla is manning the Tidehunter.
All right.
As we look in, action seems to be breaking out, but really unusual play here. They're choosing to run the combo mid against the Brewmaster, which this is going to work out well for them, I think. Thumbski can do what he just did there and nuke down every time he has the crit and the Q off cooldown, he can do some substantial damage to the Tiny, but with IO there, this damage is more or less a lie.
Yeah.
It's never really going to be substantial in any way.
One thing that's nice about having a dual lane up against the Brewmaster is that you always have a top lane. We're having a little bit of engagement, but nothing really that's going to amount to anything. But one thing that is nice about having the dual lane up against the Brewmaster is that you always have a very expendable auto attack to get rid of that mischance, because that mischance, the way they reworked it now, that I'm sure most of our viewers know, but some of our viewers may not know, is that it's not pure chance. So if you have not taken an auto attack for a certain amount of time, I think it's 10 seconds, you get an automatic dodge on the next one, which is one of the reasons why he's actually doing a lot of damage. Yeah, he will be able to back out, but he is going to be forced to use all of his regen there and probably either back up or bring his bottle out now.
He's got the bottle on the courier now along with the salve, so he should be more than fine. He's going to lose a few last hits to the Tiny, but that's to be expected. Sooner or later, that combo's going to try and pop on him like they just did. It's actually a good play he got out.
If I'm this IO Tiny combination, as soon as I do that, I'm calling out to my Nature's Prophet saying the bottle's probably coming out right now. If you see that Brewmaster has not backed out, you know the bottle's coming out. And the important part about this is the bottle coming out before 3 minutes is a guaranteed walking courier, which Nature's Prophet can get very, very easily. And you think, that could be a courier pickoff situation. The Nature's Prophet would rather stay up here and farm, which is also a reasonable call. It is kind of risky to go in. He's actually going to do a little bit of damage, but a very nice chew through instantly coming out of Johnzilla. And he will not be taking enough damage to really put himself in any significant danger.
I don't think the NP... ICE is trying to use the NP as more of a delayed reaction pick to see, I think, how IE wants to play this game. They want him to farm there because he can farm very well against the Tidehunter. So the more time they give him to farm, particularly when he's got a Skywrath behind him like we see now when they're both trying to force him away, the more and more farm he gets, just the easier it's going to be for him to read the game, choose an item that he thinks will fit best, and go with that.
Yep.
I'd like for just a moment to get back to the Witch Doctor as we see them both smoking around mid.
There it
now.
is.
They found Io.
And they are going to do some auto attacks out. There's going to be the Shackle actually hunting the
Here
Tiny.
comes NP.
NP is going to come
fall.
in. Nice stun coming out of the Tiny. A
Good
very,
stun.
very nice delay
goes
there
Doctor.
from the Nature's Prophet. Excellently played. And Thumbski's taking a fair amount of auto attack damage now, and he's got to go all the way north, which means he should be going down. He's going to try to deny himself.
No, can he get it? Can he get it? No. Very good play from the Wisp there to get him both with the Spirits and with the auto attack on the tail end.
Yeah.
Now, that puts the lie to what I mentioned a moment ago about 1-2-2 wanting to leave, but already he's up to 18 last hits. He is more than set to go. He can go wherever he wants now and just give the Skywrath the XP on the top lane. Tidehunter cannot really stop Skywrath in this situation because there's always the chance of NP coming back. So because of this is just a very good execution by ICE here. They clearly know exactly how they want to play this lineup, and they're playing it very well.
I really, really like the idea of having a semi-farmer in the top lane, like a temporary farmer with the Nature's Prophet out here in this top lane, having Skywrath support to open up, but then take a bunch of experience as the Nature's Prophet rotates or goes into the jungle. That's really what you need on a Skywrath support. The only other way to really run a Skywrath support very successfully through the early game is rotate him constantly. And doing that is much more difficult to execute than it looks.
That is true, but I think the advantage of this really is that viewed one way, ICE's lineup is really not relying on the NP for outright damage. They have Tiny and Io for that. They have Skywrath ulti as well, and they have Clockwork to guarantee the positioning for all of the above. NP is really at this point just free to delay anything and say, okay, what item do I want to buy that fits the game situation best? How can I be of the best use to my team? Because they don't have to rely on him immediately for damage or anything like that. His ability to go in and gank like that when the situation arises, because he doesn't need the farm particularly right now. He can wait. We see a Ravage top as Johnzilla flees. 1-2-2 taking a lot of damage as the ult bounces through. But they're letting NP just delay any sort of commitment to anything. He's just carrying right along. He's getting good farm in the top lane. Weaver has had more or less uncontested free farm bottom. His Clockwork can't do much about it. And NP and Tiny are not far behind at this stage in the game.
Yeah, so here is something about, you keep saying that Nature's Prophet is delaying the engagement coming out of IE, but honestly, I don't really think IE...
Not the engagement. He's delaying committing to an item.
I see. Go ahead and finish your thought before I.
Well, the way ICE has built their draft. NP does not have to commit to any type of major item pickup. He hasn't done it now. He probably doesn't really have to do it till about 15 minutes in, which is the point at which the tiny IO combo should be online. Yeah. So really, ICE is delayed committing to a strategy at this point, and IE is having to figure out very quickly how they want to deal with that.
I think ICE probably, they've already committed in their minds where that Nature's Prophet is going to go based on their early performance. But the important thing about delaying committing to that item that hasn't really been spelled out, and I want to spell this out for the viewers, is that they are not giving away to their opponents what they're planning on building. And that's the important aspect of that you're trying to drive at, I suspect.
It's that, but also they give themselves the option of playing the game.
I'm going to interrupt you because in the mid, Thumbsky's going to be blown up by a nice rotation coming out of the Skywrath Mage.
Always the threat of the Skywrath rotation, and he didn't even have the ult for that as well, so that was a very well-executed gank by ICE.
Yep, and the top tower goes down as well. The silence is just so potent up against the Brewmaster, who was already pretty low, and has to deal with a dual lane, so...
This NP is playing very well. He's up to 1,600 gold, 7 minutes in, with Phase, Ring of Basilius, and a Null Talisman, so he's more or less ready to go. We see him run bottom now as they get the pick off again. Shadow Shaman is down. Weaver soon to follow. Can they get him?
Weaver has no more Shikuchi. He's got no more mana thanks to those cogs. So Thumbsky's going to come in here, however, and try to make that happen. He will not be able to. The Weaver will be going down. Now Thumbsky coming in, trying to get a return kill, but he's going to go pretty deep for it. Oh, the cogs are going to push him back. And Katsu on the meanwhile, yeah.
Perfect cogs.
Also coming in with the heal on that tether. So, I've got to say that, the Nature's Prophet is doing pretty well, but bear in mind that that's a farming lane Nature's Prophet. He has left a couple times, but for the most part, he's been up there in that lane farming out. The Weaver is sitting on top of 50 last hits. And this is the big unspoken story of this game so far, is that this bottom lane has been essentially uncontested by the Clockwork, who himself only has 12 last hits. And in terms of his experience, is still sitting at around level 6 as a solo laner, compared to the 7 out of the Weaver, who's had 2 supports in his lane all game. So Clockwork is literally leveling slower than the tri-lane heroes.
That's a good point, but also bear in mind that the levels of the 2 supports are 4 and 3 right now. Compare that with the levels of Skywrath Mage, who's 6, Io, who's also 6. IE supports are just far behind because of this. They maybe could have let the Clockwork get a bit more out of it and gotten some levels and hoped to start the push quickly.
Yeah, I think maybe trying to start the push quicker would have behooved them on
Weaver. Okay.
Weaver should be able to get away with this, yeah. There is going to be... Oh, very nice. He does not have another Shikuchi. Okay, just came up, so he should be fine. Even though the IO relocation, never mind.
Sentry ward does him in.
Yeah, nice IO relocation with the ward as well. Katsu really paying his way there and making sure that that kill comes out, which is very important because, as we already said, the Weaver was tearing away with it in terms of farm through that early game.
This is interesting to me because IE at this point may almost be strategically bust here. They don't, by 10 minutes in, you really, with a lineup like that, you should be looking to have at least 1, probably at best 2 towers down. And IE it really hasn't crossed the river in a long time. Their strategy has more or less just been completely defeated here.
Yeah, I don't think they need to have 2 towers down yet necessarily. I mean, bear in mind, Shadow Shaman's still level 4. Even in a good game, a Shadow Shaman at 10 minutes would probably be about level 6. So we're probably thinking, yeah, if you can get a very early tower, that's great. But up against a Clockwork, that's hard to do. Probably around 9 to 11 minutes is when you expect the first tower to go down. With an option on that being the second tower if you have an extremely good early game. But the issue with this is they aren't just missing towers. They're also missing grouping up. And they've got a Tidehunter, a Brewmaster, and a Shadow Shaman, all of whom do very well in group engagement.
Shadow Shaman just lost to a Clockwork hook.
And yeah, that is going to be a very quick kill going in the way of ICE, who are now 8-0 through this early game. Yeah, strategically, IE needs to very, very quickly start forcing ICE to face them in quick engagements. This Weaver pick that was pulled out needs to be used as a push Weaver. They need to be doing some forward protect 1 right now to catch up. They definitely need to be forcing ICE to fight them on and trying to buy space for the Weaver. The Weaver has space bought out. He isn't in the top lane farming out, but at the expense of towers, which is arguably not the best move. All right, it looks like there's going to be some gank attempts coming out of IE, which might not be the recipe for success, as Weaver is tossed into the air and splatters before he can hit the ground. There's, yeah, some smokes coming out here for the Tidehunter, which means presumably they're going to go ahead and try to find some ganks, but I don't know that there are going to be any ganks to be found. There's still 0 kills in at this point in time in the game.
Yeah, the other thing is that now, because Ice has shown a fight bottom, they've just sent Nature's Prophet back to the top lane and told him keep going. Because now Ice is running his forward, Brewmaster just dropped again. As Ice heads into the Roche pit, they have to deal with this NP top, which is a perfect cover for the Roshan effort that looks to be happening very soon. But I realized what it was about the Witch Doctor pick that threw me off when I first saw it. When you mentioned that Witch Doctor helps a siege out, I don't think IE has a siege without the ultimates. No. They really are a one-and-done push lineup, because if the Shadow Shaman wards go down, the Ravage is down, they don't have a push anymore.
Weaver pushes very well, but not early. And that is what kind of throws me off a little bit about this Weaver pick, is that Weaver pushes really well starting at like 15, 20 minutes. Does not push very well starting at like 8 to 11 minutes, which was really what they wanted. I think I like the Weaver pick if they're going to do a 4 Protect 1 style, but that's not really what IE's doing, which means the Weaver is pretty much a bust draft. I think a Juggernaut, something along those lines, would have really helped out the draft a lot more, because it would have given them a lot more sustainable fight in Siege. In the same way that that Witch Doctor does by being able to heal people up. There's going to be Katsu coming in here on Thumbski. Thumbski silenced out. There's some Mystic Flare. It is going to miss just enough to get out the ultimate.
Got the split off. Yeah. That was a good play. I honestly thought he was dead there. I think the Skywrath silence wore off just in time.
But the question is it worth the split with that huge level 1 cooldown just to save the Brewmaster when you're already 10 kills behind?
I mean, they're 10 kills behind. They got to do what they can. I think if they lose him, that's a tier 2 tower with him gone. Maybe even look to go high ground at that point, or just look to do what they do right now and go straight back to Roshan and sort the game out from there.
Right, and probably this Roshan attempt was coming anyway. I mean, they are almost 10,000 golden lead in way of Ice, almost 5,000 experience at 14 minutes. I think if IE could see the charts that we can see, they would be very seriously considering a GG call this stage. Like, it's very hard to imagine a team like theirs that has a lot of heroes that tend to fall off later on in the game anyway, coming back from this sort of deficit up against one of the hardest carries in the game in terms of push and late game damage, which is that Tiny, especially the Tiny with the IO.
The other thing that strikes me as odd is that they drafted a very heavy team fight lineup into an IO and an NP. 2 heroes that are very good at not caring about a team fight if they really want to.
Right. Remember, the NP was drafted in response. So that was just a very smart and intuitive pickup by Ice. The IO, you can force the IO to be useless if you do just barrel down lanes. An IO with a relocate, that relocate usually isn't enough to just plain split push down towers. You can't really rat that successfully with an IO. And if you get your entire team together and just start barreling down lanes, the relocate can't really hurt you because you know they're going to be coming at you anyway. And there's no surprise to it. There's no like, oh, look, there's an IO and a Tiny on top of me eating my face. That doesn't really happen as much when you have a 5-man squad. But the Nature's Prophet does punish that 5-man squad very significantly, because he can go into any lane that you're not in and push almost as hard as you're going to push by himself.
The other thing is I think that analysis changes once Tiny gets the Scepter up, because at that point then they do serve as a really good push counter, counter push, solely because he'll take down buildings so quickly. So once that happens, a relocate, if they do, if IE does decide just to 5-man down a lane, which at this point they really should look to do, Tiny is suddenly in another lane pushing, so is NP. What do you do?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Katsu casually throwing out the confetti dust of appearance because he got a gem. It was just a celebratory, like, look, I don't need this anymore. I just kind of threw it into the air, and I found it amusing. But go ahead and finish it up.
That kind of thing, yes.
But yeah, I mean, presumably if you've got a draft like IE's, a Brewmaster, a Tide, and a Shadow Shaman, you're not planning on trying to split push down or push down at the point in time when Tiny has Ags and is drilling down your towers, right? Like, at that point in time, you assume you've probably lost the game anyway if it gets that late, and you don't have a significant foothold. So, This is the stage in the game where you would expect them to be up, and then you would expect there to be some comeback potential coming out of the Tiny IO squad, with some potential counter-pushing coming out of the Nature's Prophet.
Split, instant split.
He is going to be stunned, and 122 is in a bit of trouble now.
Kill.
There's nobody to help him out here. He is going to be stunned again here in a moment if he does not get away. Oh, the Spirit is going to be inside, and that will be the first kill going the way of IE.
Taking the tier 2 as well. Tiny has his Ags now, so that tier 2 is going to drop in a few hits. This is really a problem for IE, though they've had one for quite a while now. But once Tiny has his Ags, I think at this point the game may more or less just be done.
I think it's pretty much done at this stage. I mean, Tiny's just going to barrel down lanes. He's got IO there making sure that he basically can't die. And he's going to decimate anything in his path. There's nobody on IE who can really handle that kind of power. I mean, Weaver's 2,000 net worth behind him and is still a good distance away from having even a Lincoln sub, which does not help with the cleave and damage that comes out of Tiny. It also doesn't help against the stun. So, it also, if Tiny plays it right, doesn't help against the toss even. So, the Lincoln's not even that effective up against the bulk of the damage that's coming out at this stage in the game. And it's not even up yet.
I'm not sure Lincoln's was the best call here for the Weaver, but I'm also not sure that he had many other options to consider. Though he did have free farm, he probably could have gone in for something like a Desolator, which might have actually worked better with their early tower plan. But it seems that when that plan went so completely awry, I think he just made he made the best call he felt he could at the time, and more protection against a lineup that is basically killing you is never a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, it does give a lot of stats as well. Wow, Tiny just immediately blows up both supports in one fell swoop. There's going to be the Tidehunter coming in with the ulti. And Blainer might be going down here, but he has an Aegis, so he'll be popping back up, and he will have full mana. His combo's up in 4 seconds, so this will be another blown-up hero, presumably. He throws the toss out at the Weaver, then he tries the man mode onto Thumbski here. 122 teleports in to help. John Zilla taking a fair amount of damage here. 122 is being the hits from Thumbski. He'll be trying to back out. Weaver's just running around, not doing a whole lot, but he can't really get in because he doesn't have that much help.
He's being very shy with his time lapse. He could really have come ahead with that with a lot more health. But
yeah.
I would...
I would agree.
This is the relocate rather completely. There we go.
Tiny's going to come in with a big old damage swing, and this should be a full team kill here. Skywrath as well. Perfect execution on that combo, and honestly, I think IE has just been outclassed this game. It's hard to say it any other way.
Clockwork just proved the worth of that pick with that one play.
Right? I mean... That was an insane catch. He manages to grab every single member of the team with the Skywrath nearby for the ulti and the Tiny.
GG comes out.
Yeah.
That was... I think that play kind of really brought home to IE just how far behind they were when Clockwork catches 4 of you and they all die. But I think at the end of the day, this game, ICE just as you said, almost outplayed. It almost seemed like ICE outthought them in a lot of ways. Yeah. Everything IE tried to do, ICE had an answer to. And I will say, though, I think at one point, though, in that last engagement, right when Tiny blew up the 2 supports for the first time, I think that's when they were really cursing not having more farm on their supports out of the early game. Because if Shadow Shaman has a Blink Dagger, that's probably a 1 fight for IE. But he had to run in. Tiny saw him first. They both died.
Yeah, well, we will see if IE is going to be able to bounce back here at game number 2 of this 2-game series here at CEVO Season 5. My name is Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can catch me over at GotCowJoda. And I'm joined by Matt, who you can catch over at JoinDota.com, where he is a, what are you, senior staff there now?
I like how you don't even know what I am as you tell me I'm